Yes, boys, today's video, another one requested, how to tell if you are essentially training hard enough. So if you watched yesterday's video, you would have seen we spoke about pretty much the 5 best tips I could give you to essentially bulk up and gain a load of muscle. And the last point, if you're a real G, if you watched to the end, you would have heard I was speaking about essentially training intensity is what matters. Training intensity is what actually drives growth. That's what stimulates muscle growth in the first place. And it's what most people are actually missing, right? A lot of people think they can just rely on excess calories and food, and then magically they just grow loads of muscle and they get big, and then they go to the fucking IFBB Pro and everything just works out. That's all you gotta do. You just gotta eat food and just lift. That's what happens. Nah, unfortunately, the reason people have a shit ton of muscle, the reason you see all of these natural bodybuilders who are just in insane shape, it's because they've perfected the skill of training. Like anything, going to the gym, lifting is a skill. And if you're not committing to getting better at it, then you will not grow more muscle. There will be a ceiling, right? Do you ever notice that when you're training, right, the first kind of couple of years when you get into the gym and you just kind of touch some weights and you fuck around, you do push-pull legs 6 times per week and you don't really go to failure and your form's not great, your ego lifting, you still build a load of muscle. But after a while, it becomes pretty difficult, right? The simple reason why is because for new adaptation to occur, something new must happen, right? So if you've not been training previously, any new stimulus such as just throwing some weight around is obviously going to grow new muscle. But eventually you're going to hit a ceiling, you're going to plateau. And then it requires something to change. It's like with anything, right? If you are doing the same shit over and over again, you cannot expect different results. So if you are basically just upping the weight and not actually perfecting your form and you're still just smashing out the reps, then there's a likelihood that you're not training to your full capability and you're not training with accuracy and proper execution, which is why a lot of people struggle to actually grow muscle. So there's the actual accuracy part, making sure that you're actually hitting the movements correctly and you're doing it with the target muscle in mind. And then the second part is the actual intensity, right? So I want to talk about both of them because both are what's actually going to drive proper muscle growth. Muscle growth is really, really simple, right? In order to actually stimulate any sort of new tissue, you need to basically train with enough intensity for an adaptation to occur, to essentially break down muscle fibers, to essentially signal to your body, right, we need to get stronger here. And then you need to have enough nutrition, you need to have enough food sorted, in your day-to-day diet to make sure that you can actually put on new mass. And then you need to make sure recovery is also another aspect you're taking care of, because obviously you can only grow what you recover from. Those are the 3 core prerequisites. Now, I think a lot of people think they train hard enough, but they don't. Everyone says they train to failure, but really, I don't think people actually know what failure is. And the reason I'm saying this is because, 1, I'm fucking good at it. I know I am, because you can watch any of my clips and you can see me train. I fucking give more than enough. And 2, not only from just training with friends and also seeing people in the gym every day and also training my clients, I ask every single client for form clips. I see that a lot of people, and I do it as well, by the way, I'm not perfect. A lot of people think they're done when they're not done. And the first piece of advice that I will give you right now that you can take away is build the habit of completing your exercise, completing your set when your body is done, not when your mind is done. I hope that makes sense. A lot of people will, 1, get to the top of the rep range. So they said they're going to do 12 reps or so and then stop at 12 just because it's 12. We're done here today. We got 12. It was +2, whatever. You need to basically train yourself to say, right, I will, if we're doing, for example, a chest press, I don't stop when my brain says no. I stop when my arm physically can't move anymore. And judging by the velocity at what my arm is moving at, if I can see, for example, when I'm spotting someone, if I can see that they did their last rep and they move their arm pretty quickly, I say go again, because it's obvious. But a lot of the times people say, no, I'm done. It's like, well, you're clearly not. Your arm's able to move it. That's just your brain telling you no. And I think a lot of people come into the gym, right, and they think it's kind of easy, right? Because maybe in the past it was easy, but if you wanted something new to happen, you got to treat each set with respect, right? You got to come in and you got to make sure, 1, you're well fed. Have you ate food before? Have you actually fueled up for this? 2, are you in the right zone for this? Have you actually come here to grow some muscle, or you just come in to just, feel a little better and fuck around? Because if you are, that's absolutely fine. But, don't complain when you're not growing muscle, right? It requires actual focus and intention behind what you're doing. So you need to come in and say, okay, well, we did this last week for X amount of reps. We did 100 kg for 8 reps. I want at least 100 kg for 12th day. And you fucking fight for that set, right? And if it's easy, then you need to keep upping the weight until it gets hard again. And when it gets hard, then you'll find that you need to really, really focus. For example, I'm at a point now with all of my gym sessions where they're not really not even that fun anymore. Like every single one is just fucking war, because I'm at a point now where I've pretty much pushed it to where every lift is so high that now, like, I hope this makes sense. In order to have basically achieved that lift previously, it required a lot of mental focus and pretty much everything I had in the fucking tank. So now to beat that, that's the baseline, that's the standard. I can't come in on 2 hours sleep, hungover, thinking, oh yeah, I'm just gonna fucking beat the 50 kg dumbbells I pressed the other day. Like, that's not gonna happen. So you have to understand that if you're going to train hard enough, it requires obviously proper fueling, it requires proper mindset, you need the right music, you need to make sure you've got some caffeine before you as well. You need to make sure that you're pushing until your body is done, not when your mind is done, right? So I want you to understand that I've seen so many people who actually just stop like 10 reps before they're done. And you need to understand, right, this is something my coach taught me, which is really, really cool. It's a good analogy and way of thinking. It's like, imagine, right, when you're doing your set and, you get 10 reps in and it's all sweet until the 10 reps. But then those last, 5, 6 reps, that's when it starts to really, really hurt, right? This is what we call the cash collection zone. Imagine, right, you only start collecting money when it starts to actually hurt and, you're really, really starting to fail. Think about it now. The cash you're collecting is fucking triple, right? So if you're trying to collect as much money as possible, you better fucking focus and lock in those last 5, 6 reps. And that's exactly the way you want to think about it. The first 10 reps you did, they do fuck all. It's the last 5 where the magic happens. I think Muhammad Ali, or is it Mike Tyson? I'm not sure. He spoke about it quite a lot. So don't fucking start counting until it starts to hurt, because that's genuinely what it is. It's a new adaptation. You can't expect new things to happen if you're doing the same shit. Same goes with your body. Like, why would you grow more muscle if you're just lifting the same shit you did last time? Something new must happen. Every session must be harder. You must be pushing the limits without fail. Do you see what I'm saying? So, yeah, make sure that you're not stopping when your head's done. You're stopping when your body's physically done, okay? And it also makes sense to actually have proper training programming to allow for that, right? So rule of thumb, I typically go for 2 sets going to failure for pretty much every single movement. So typically you'll have a heavy set, maybe 6 to 9 reps, where you're trying to really, really push as much as possible. The idea of this one is just really, really kind of slow and controlled form to obviously break down the muscle fibers and essentially allow them to grow back, get stronger. And then you want to do a second set, maybe 12 to 15 reps. There's evidence to suggest that muscle also grows through metabolic stress. This is essentially when you basically pump a load of blood into the muscle, and as a result there's a lack of oxygen, and it requires your muscle to essentially, basically you getting a pump requires your muscle to expand and essentially grow back and adapt a little bit better. So that's a rationale behind 6 to 8 and 12 to 15. You do those 2 and really you should have a proper kind of understanding of how we do things. And typically what I'd recommend is do some warm-up sets, but don't obviously count them. Don't let your warm-up sets fatigue your top set. So just kind of, let's say 100 kg bench press, right? We're going to do 8 reps, do 20 kg for 10, and then do 60 kg for 6, and then do 80 kg for 3. Now you're warm. Go in for 100 kg, push it to, so you get to 6, and now you really, really push it, 7, and then, now your brain's telling you to stop, try and get an 8th. Okay, if not, we get 7, cool. You write down 7. Then if you got 100 kg for 7, you work out, okay, well, I've got 100 kg for 7, probably you can get 90 for 15, so you put up 90. Let's say you go for it, you listen to everything I said, you get 16, cool. You write that down. Then next week, guess what you're gonna do? You're gonna go 100 kg and you're gonna push for 9 or 10. Ideally, now you're gonna get a spotter with you, because you can say, look, bro, I got 7 last time. This time I wanna get 9, 10. I need you to help me on these extra reps, okay? And that's the way you wanna think about it. And it's just a game that you're beating every single week. The biggest mistake people make is they don't even track. They don't even know what's going on. So they don't even have the fun of the gym. They don't have the game. There's no game if you don't know what's going on, right? Like, if imagine you're playing COD, right? And you're trying to level up to what was it, level 55, and you're trying to prestige. You don't even know what fucking level you're at. Why would you keep grinding? Why would you keep doing it? You wouldn't. Do you know what I mean? So make sure that you actually know where you're at, and then it's very, really easy, okay? That's what I'd say from a training intensity standpoint. Then once you've got that locked in, right? Once you actually know how to push it to complete failure, right? And I wanted to go on a bit of a tangent on that because a lot of people don't know what complete failure is, right? Complete failure is like when it's when you physically can't move your arm anymore, right? For example, let's just do a bicep curl, right? A lot of people will just go, I get to the end, and then a little bit of struggle and go, I'm done. It's like, no, you're fucking not. Like, you can obviously do more. Like, what are you doing? Because like, if I was to literally say, no, like lift up now, or like, you owe me $1,000 or whatever, you would do it. And it's just like that mindset. It's like, you have to be able to tap into that. That is a skill. It's hard, but you better fucking learn it because that's how you train with intensity. And that's how you just pretty much blow everyone out of the water. That's how you grow more muscle, okay? That's number one, right? In order to train hard, you obviously need to understand that. Two, you obviously need to have the prerequisites in place. So you need to make sure, like I said, you fueled well, you slept well, you recovered, you got the right music, you're in a good zone, you're in a good gym, you're feeling good, making sure that, you're here. Absolutely smash it, those are two, right? Then once you've got that down, once you understand the basics of training intensity, then you can talk about intensifiers, right? And this is pretty much how you take it even fucking further. So everyone knows what a drop set is, right? Remember, drop sets are useful, but drop sets are pointless if you don't understand point one, right? So if you're not training to failure in the top set, why even drop it when you had more, right? You might as well just do more of the same weight rather than just dropping it, okay? So drop sets are pretty cool, but they are very fatigue bearing. At the end of the day, they're gonna cause a lot of fatigue. So you wanna use them carefully. But one thing I would recommend, right, and this should be done with pretty much every exercise if possible, and really, you wanna be programming machines to allow this. Try and do some forced negative reps. Now, I'll give you a perfect example. If we're doing a bench press, right, or we're doing any sort of chest press, if I had a spotter, basically, say I get to my 100 kg, my 8th rep, and I really, really can't push it. In an ideal world, what I'd do is I'd get a spar to basically come and hold the bar under, and I'd basically come down on a negative, wouldn't be able to push it up, he'd pull it up, and we try and do a few more on a negative. And what that means is basically I've exhausted the positive part of the rep, but this, there's still a little bit of juice left in the tank. Now, if you ever find that you're plateauing on lifts, if you ever find that like you're eating quite a lot of food, you're rested, you're progressively overloading, but you really can't seem to grow this muscle group, you really can't seem to push a lift, that's where these intensifiers come in. Now, it's not very safe on a bench press, but imagine you're doing a chest press, right? And you get to your 12th rep and there's no spot, you end it there. Imagine if there was a spot and he comes in, he goes, okay, we're gonna pull that, we're gonna go back down, 1, do it again. And you really, really try and focus, 2, and you do 3 or 4 reps of those, and you do that a couple exercises per session, you do that over the course of a week. It's small marginal gains, but it really, really does add up, okay? Those are little intensifiers that can change everything. Another really good example is the bicep curl. This is my favorite one. So I love a single arm preacher curl, right? I basically get the machine, obviously I'll just make sure I'm doing my single arm preacher, go pretty heavy. Let's say I get to the 10th rep, right? And I really can't push it up. What I'll just do is I'll just bring my other hand here and I'll exhaust this now. Just exhaust the lengthened part of the movement. Keep doing that. And right now, I'm just tapping into a whole part of the exercise that most people never really miss. Like you never really do. And as a result, that allows you to train with pure intensity, right? If you understand all of that, you're gonna know how to actually train hard, okay? I'll give you some signals to know whether you're training hard enough or not. First off, if you're able to just kind of go on your phone between sets and like just scroll through Instagram or whatever, 1, it shows you're not really focused, and 2, you shouldn't really be able to. Like your last set should actually be so hard to the point where you're like, fuck, I need to rest. Maybe you have to walk around the gym a little bit. That's kind of what I do. I do some steps in between if you're in a fat loss phase. That's a very good tip. So if you're able to kind of just walk around and go on your phone and just, fucking go about your normal day, chances are you probably had a bit more in the tank. One way I like to think about it, right, is like imagine, when you do a 5K, right, or you do a fucking 10K run and like you finish it, you have to lie down. You're like, fuck, it's pretty heavy. That was hard. I feel like I'm gonna throw up. My heart's beating loads. That's what the fucking gym should be. The amount of people who just sit there tapping away, doing their leg extensions or whatever, just thinking gym's fucking easy. It's like, if it was easy, then everyone would be fucking massive, wouldn't it? So there's obviously a bit of effort and skill that needs to go into it. And the reason I'm quite passionate about this is because I see so many people who say they struggle and they don't know why. It's just because you treat it like a game, and I don't blame you. Like realistically, the standards are low at the moment. Like the people you hang around with potentially all don't really take it seriously. Not many people take it seriously. It's not until you go to a proper bodybuilding gym you see what real training is. You see people fucking giving it some, and you understand the effort that actually goes into building a serious physique. It's not easy, you know. So that's what I'd say there. But just make sure that when it comes to training intensity, you know, you're actually pushing it. You give the gym the respect it deserves, right? Like, if it's not hard, then you're doing something wrong, right? And then don't bullshit yourself saying it is hard when it isn't. Like, make it really hard, right? Like, if you're able to do, one tip I will give you right now is, like, if you're able to go into the gym and do like 15, 16 reps of an exercise and you still have a bit left in the tank, you're lifting too light. So just look, you can slowly increase it over the next month or 2 months. Or why don't you just go into the gym and pretty much find out what the heaviest weight you can do for 6 to 8 reps, find it on that gym session, jump as many weights as you need to, and start there. Now you found your ceiling. Now it's time to break the fucking ceiling every single session. But most people, they just like to tiptoe up to the ceiling when they know, like, this is easy, but they do the easy shit over and over again. And it's not really, you know, how you're gonna grow muscle, okay? So I hope that makes sense. And then finally, the last caveat is, whilst doing all of this and improving training intensity, you need to consistently review your form clips. Because basically, if you're gonna try and push your limits and you're gonna try and lift a load of weight, chances are you're gonna have some lapses in your form. And unfortunately, it's a case of, you know, 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards off more often than not. When trying to lift heavy and trying to push your limits and progressively overload, you're probably gonna have some lapses in your form. You're probably gonna make some mistakes. You're gonna probably be able to perform the exercise a little bit better. Now, the ego in us wants to just go, nah, fuck that, we'll just keep lifting heavier. Personally, I do the same with bench press. I'm not going down on my bench press. I'm getting my 140 kg and then that's it, fuck the form. That's because that's my decision. I wanna just ego lift for that movement. But for everything else, like for example, with my legs and, you know, my arms, I wanna grow these. I'm not gonna sit there and just let my ego do the talk. I'm gonna think and go like, okay, although it would be nice to lift more weight, we know for a fact that muscle growth obviously relies on range of motion and making sure that we're actually taking, you know, the muscle through the full plane of movement, and we're making sure we're doing that with control and execution. Right now it's clear that I'm adding a load of weight just for the sake of it, and really I'm not doing that, so it makes sense to bring the weight down. I mean, all you need to do is just reframe the idea of progressive overload in your mind. You think progressive overload means more weight, more reps, more sets, whatever. Progressive overload just simply means making it harder. So yeah, maybe you did 140 kg squat last week, but the form wasn't there. Bring it down to 120 kg. It's not an L. If you get more range of motion, if you get cleaner and slower reps, you just made it harder. You got better, you got stronger. And that's the goal at the end of the day. Leave the ego at the door. The goal is to get stronger, to grow more muscle. So if you grew more muscle, you got better. Doesn't matter if it was with less weight. If anything, it's a bonus. You just managed to grow more muscle with less risk on your body, with less likelihood of injury. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't understand. It takes a bit of a mature gym goer to think like that, to say, okay, although more weight would be fun, more weight would feed our ego, we know that actually it requires range of motion, it requires proper execution, proper tempo, proper accuracy. And if we get all of them with the right training intensity, then we actually grow muscle. That's pretty much a masterclass on how you should be training in the gym, how to know if you're training hard enough, how to actually push your limits, and how to actually grow some solid muscle, okay? It is 2 o'clock. I need to go to the gym. I hope that's been useful. Any questions, please do let me know. Other than that, I'll catch you on the next one. Safe.